Hello! Hi, it's John. I am in my motorhome. It is a very windy day. We're driving north. I'm on camping adventures with my dog Patch. He's down here on the passenger seat, sat with me. Hello, buddy. So I have a question to answer, and this is about trees, which is exciting, and how trees remember. So I'm excited for this. So thank you for posting your question. The question is from Shannon Witt. It says, "Hi, John and Patch," which I love because Patch is also with me. As a child, I played in trees often. I even made clubhouses in trees with my childhood friends. My question is, do the trees that I have played in so long ago, maybe even 55 years, remember me as a child now? I'm older. Plus, how do these trees remember? Okay, now I'll just flip you around because you guys can watch the road. You don't need to watch me the whole time. You can watch the road for me. Let me know if there's any obstacles coming. I'm only joking. You know this is a recording. So I'm just letting this lorry out. It's funny, everything looks so far away on the camera. It's actually much, much closer in reality. So I did create a safe space, and since I'm driving, I'm not really going to do channeled messages per se. However, I do have a lot more to share about my experiences, and I will also accept any kind of prompts and hints. I'm just not going to do any trance channeling from trees or my spirit guides, but I am open to receiving messages from my spirit guides to help support answering Shannon's question. So, firstly, I don't know everything there is to know about trees. Okay? Just putting that out there. However, what I have experienced, and very interestingly, what modern science is like gradually catching up with, are concepts that just blow our minds about trees. So the short answer is to the question of, do trees remember? Yes, they absolutely do. Trees absolutely have memory. In fact, they don't just remember you and I at any age, right? Trees are a form of ancient library that, between the water within them and their wood and their consciousness, trees, my motor's rattling a lot. Hello, Patch. Trees remember just a huge amount. In fact, they remember collectively, trees around the world remember before even humans walked this earth. And this in part is their one of their big purposes on earth. And sometimes Mother Gaia, the soul of Mother Earth, shows me that trees are like the hairs on her skin. Her skin being the crust of the earth, and the trees being like hairs, and yet there's so much more. You know how our hair, like is it maybe all parts of the human body, like contain DNA, the very codes that you could use to create a human, that define the human form, the physical form. You know, trees do that for Earth. You know, trees remember the kind of DNA of the Earth, if you like the DNA, the codes of our history and our present. And you know, one thing that continues to blow my mind, and I'm guessing, Shannon, that you've watched the reason you're asking me about trees is because you've watched my Psychic Tree Talk videos. It's that Patch has gone to the back, he's gone to his bed. Yeah, it's super windy along here. When I talk with trees, I mean, you're only going to know whether a tree can answer a question by asking it the question. Oh my god, that van in front just opened its door and closed it again. I guess they're checking that it's closed. This gave me a small heart leaping moment. When someone opens a door driving at speed on a motorway or highway, what's strange is their roof vent looks like it's open. That looks a bit terrifying. Yeah, Patch is digging a hole in his bed. He loves doing that. So it's just like me, like you'll never know if I know the answer to something until you ask the question. And what is so powerful about the way I'm working with you, Shannon, and everyone else that watches this video, is that I'm opening myself up like a tree does, right, to answer questions. And I do feel the key to knowledge, and a knowledge put into experience, knowledge experienced becomes wisdom, is the key to unlocking wisdom in that journey of the question, knowledge, experience, and wisdom. Is the questions itself, is the diversity of questions. So the more we question, the more we expand our conscious awareness to more and more possibilities of going on a journey to wisdom, right? So if I touch on the clubhouses and trees that you made, first of all, Shannon, congratulations. What a wonderful childhood memory. I do remember attempts at doing that when I was a kid. I used to really enjoy climbing trees, very young age, 3, 4, 5. I mean, this was the 80s, right? You could, that's what kids did, right? My parents would be like, they would say to me, don't come running to me if you break your leg. That was the saying they used to tell me, which I never really quite understood, but I can come running to you if I break my leg. And they said, I know, that's the point. And I'm like, oh, I still don't quite get it. Anyway, I get it now. And back then I didn't really talk to trees. Maybe I'd when you're alone and maybe even feeling lonely, and you'd be playing outside and there was a tree there, maybe we'd have brief kind of conversations, but I wouldn't do the whole ritual of a safe space and place my hand on the tree, ask permission first, all those things. So yeah, it was just it just was. I think at a young age I would just talk to anything, birds, dogs, trees. I just figured even if they didn't talk back, that they probably could hear me, or at least talk back in a way that I understand them. So yeah, the short answer is I do feel that trees remember. And remember I said modern science, and this is the super fun limitation of science, right? Is that typically science requires repeatability. And so what is it? So therefore, by its very definition, science is closing itself to the one-offs, right? Or more specifically, the inability to repeat exactly the same experience. which is kind of crazy, right? You kind of like, why? Like, I've had loads of one-offs in my life, and I'm not sure I even want them to repeat. And yet, does that mean that scientifically they didn't exist? That they were somehow magical? I don't want to get married again, and my wedding day was so magical. Does that mean that it's not real because I won't repeat it again? Anyway, I'm just being a little bit facetious. Now I'm just going to be careful. I know we're about to head off a very big, head down a really big hill here. Whoa, the wind's going nuts. Whoa. Taking my time, driving down a hill, taking it slowly. Yeah, certainly feeling the wind. Just beautiful here, though. I love coming here. This is the same route we drive to where my daughter goes to university. So we've been frequenting it a lot more. In fact, I'd go and visit her. I was just chatting with her yesterday on the phone. I'd go and visit her, but she works through the weekends. Well, that wasn't so dramatic. That's good. Happy with not too much drama. So I have heard of, anecdotally, right, I've heard of scientific studies. I'm not going to quote them. I don't remember who did it. You could search for them on the internet and probably, or YouTube, and find some people talking about these experiences. I do remember some of the first kind of revolutions in our understanding of science's understanding of trees is that the trees communicate with each other through or at very least they've identified it through chemicals in the ground, and they also react when one tree is struggling, is ill, and also a tree will warn other trees of toxins, poisons in the ground or the water supply that they're using. And for me, from what I know, psychically talking with trees that's just the literal tip of the iceberg, right? So, because a lot of our questions about trees come from a position of believing somehow that trees are less connected together than humans are. I do not feel that's the case. I feel that trees are far more connected to each other than we currently are. There's also experiments that show that there's a lot of health benefits we get when we touch trees, when we're around trees, when we step into the aura of a tree. So that's at very least under the canopy of a tree. We know that trees help process carbon dioxide, and they create beautiful oxygen, right? Why do you think the birds in the forest are always so happy? Because they're high on all the oxygen all the time, right? Singing their butts off all the time. And why you feel so good? It's lovely to take real life problems to nature, right? And I don't mean to literally dump it into nature. It's more like when you take it there and you air it there and you talk about it out loud, these problems just don't hold the same weight. They don't get stuck and icky in your body, Tell it to the mountains, tell it to the trees, it always helps to share and release that negative self-energy, self-generated negative energy. The other interesting science experiments, now you can probably tell me more, right, in the comments. There's a place called Cock Bridge. Wow, that's a hell of a name, guys. I could think of better names for a bridge. And a Give Blood van just passed us. I don't quite get the connection, but anyway. The fascinating thing about modern science is they've also started to figure out that trees can tell, that they can see humans, and that they can even tell what we're wearing. Like the color of the clothes we wear, like if you're wearing a red jacket or not. And, you know, clearly knowing modern science, the way they would have done this is figuring out some sort of measurement of how trees respond. You know, watching for their energy flow, their water flow, their chemical composition in the roots, trunk, leaves, I don't know what they did, and then just go through test cases, right? Like here's John in a red jacket, here's John in a yellow jacket, here's John in a black jacket, and see what happens whenever same John turns up with different clothes. And there might even be a study that shows that they remember us humans. It would be remarkable to me if modern science hadn't at least caught up with that concept. So I'll talk a bit about my experiences. You know, I don't want to spend, whoa, this bridge. Look at this. This is like low barriers. Oh my God, high bridge. Wow, very exposed. This is over the Tay Bridge. This will be one of the Tay bridges. Oh, look at this. I would not want to be in a bigger vehicle, that's for sure. And just taking it easy across here. Whoa. I am so glad I got the suspension upgrade on this. There's a lorry overtaking me. No. Why? Why do you do it? You must have like a really important delivery. Because oh my God. Why you choose to overtake me across that dangerous bridge? Well, all I can say is they must have a heavy load because they don't seem at all worried about their high sides. I do have a load, but it's not that much. This is actually quite a light motorhome for its size. I think it can carry something like 700 or 800 kilograms. So, 2/3 of a ton of extra weight for luggage and water and all those things. This van, so it's very light. What was I talking about? Yeah, trees. So let's go super woo-woo, right? I've met trees, and it's getting chills, happy chills down my spine, my back. I've met trees that remember me from past lives. So Shannon, there's another yes, is your trees will absolutely remember you. And how would I describe this? Because John has never met the tree, right? In this life, my body has never met the tree. So how do I somehow know that this tree knows me? And I would say just really simple concepts need to be true for this to happen. And there's a train going past us on the right hand side. One experience that stands out is I think it must have been the summer of 2024. I went for an exploration along the Loch Tay, and there's this really magical area there. It's a beauty spot. You know, a lot of people go kind of camping there as well, like in tents and stuff. I was there with a dear friend and Patch, and as I walked past some trees, and they were really old trees, like hundreds of years old. I asked these trees, "Oh, my lane's closing. No, I need my lane." See if this guy lets me in. I think he is. That's kind. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so these trees, initially they had a bit of a kind of force field, an energetic force field around them. And it's like, whoa, these trees are highly protective of their energy, and they clearly don't like people just randomly going up to them. And this was at a distance, right, of, I don't know, 5 meters out, at least 5 meters out, maybe 10 meters out from their canopy, so from the overhang of their branches. I think these might have been oak trees. I don't know for sure. I can't remember. I would have known a little bit more. I'm not actually great on trees. I should ask them, right? Thing is, trees don't know themselves as oak trees, right? Only humans came along and named them, that gave them a human name. I'm sure they give themselves another name. That would be a cool thing to ask. What do trees call themselves? What names do they have for humans? Oh, I know what names they have for humans. I've been called a busy ant. That looks like a standing stone over there. I think it's actually a tree. Yeah, it's an old tree. Wow. Yeah, we're just going between Perth and Dundee now. So, yeah, these trees said to me, there was 3 or 4 of them together, and they clearly knew each other well. They said to me, there's a bit of a slow collision not happening in front of us, where a van's been trying to push into a lorry and failing, which is good. Everyone seems calm and happy now. Yeah, so these trees said to me, "John, do you remember us?" And I was like, I don't know. Where I've never been here physically before in this life. I'm not sure if I'd remember you. Maybe I was really young and I don't remember coming here. And the tree said, "No, from a previous life. We remember you. We remember your soul." And then I'm getting these lovely chills again. It's like, oh wow, you remember me from a previous life. And immediately my human mind steps in and is like, when, where, what was I? Was a male or female? And they're saying, oh, we knew you as a healer, we would now call that lifetime of me as a witch. They described me as a healer, and perhaps in part that was the work I was doing. And I was also working with the trees, and it really opened me up. I didn't fully integrate the experience at the time, and by that I mean I didn't kind of fully update Jon Binnie's mental concepts and models of the universe and beliefs in the universe. I just, I'm getting used to just allowing these kind of one-offs to happen, and then later achieve a kind of eventual integration of either a yes or a maybe or a no. Is that now real for me? Am I updating my mental concepts and beliefs and knowings? And I've also had a similar experience. Oh, by the way, the trees did kind of let down their barriers, and not all of them, but one of them did eventually, and allowed me to connect with it physically, to touch it physically, which was really nice. There was no pressure. It was like, it's totally up to you guys. I would always respect every being's sovereignty, and always ask a tree. Where a lot of us humans are full of a lot of negative energy, and it's a lot when we connect, right? When we connect to any other being. So there's this, the Brock Woods, where you see me go most Wednesdays for my psychic tree talk. It's quite close to where I live. Those trees remember me. And that's come up in maybe 2 or 3 videos. They were probably some of the earlier videos. And maybe I've kind of just mentioned it, you know. But those trees have said that they've known me for 2 lifetimes. 2 different lifetimes in the area. And that also really fascinates me. Gulping sound inbound. What was I going to say? I'm kind of speechless. Maybe it's because I'm stuck behind a bit of a lorry. Let's overtake this guy. What's a tractor? Arr, it's me, tractor. Okay. Changing gears. Talking about trees. So I'm gonna go into a bit more about how do trees remember, and that was the last question within Shannon's question. And I'll just invite my spirit guide Maya to. She's an earth elemental, right? So she knows. She's in the know about energy and knowledge and wisdom. Whoa! Why are you guys overtaking me? I'm literally about 2 or 3 miles under the speed limit, and these guys are right up hard against that speed limit. It just gives me, as you know, if you're in an RV motorhome or you're towing a trailer and something big overtakes you, especially on a windy day, you get a bit of a surprise, and that keeps happening to me. So I'll try and keep my speed. My motorhome isn't always keeping its speed on the hills in the wind with a bit of a load inside as well. There's another one coming up behind me to overtake me. Well, at least I see you this time. And there's no rush. You overtake me, it's fine. Oh, we've got lots of people braking up ahead. Let's give this guy some space. Wow. These are big guys. Ember. I'm sure that bus or someone who's overtaken me recently, it says it's electric. They must carry a lot of batteries. Anywho. Or maybe you still get the little green badge if you run off biofuel. I don't know. Maybe. Oh yeah, you would see an exhaust, wouldn't you, if it was running off biofuel? And it would sound different. Anyway. Stop talking about vehicles, John. Trees, we're talking about trees. So I see that trees, from the work I've done with trees, is that they connect, they remember, they hold energy and they hold their own souls in the trunk of the tree and the branches and the roots. And then they also have connectivity to all the other trees locally where they live. So it could be local woodlands, forest, or nearby trees, if they're a bit more disparate. And they also have access to connect with the collective, the tree collective. I've heard some people use the term hive mind for trees. I don't really resonate with that, but I get why you might believe that it's a kind of singular-like consciousness across many physical beings, if you like. However, I don't really resonate so much with that. What feels more right for me when I connect with trees is, and I feel this when I ask them, so when I ask questions like, you know, who's Stephen Burns, or what about Greenland, or, you know, and so on, the trees aren't accessing, a bit like when you ask me questions that I feel are a bit beyond the pay grade, if you like, to use an expression, beyond the immediate local knowledge of Jon and his consciousness and his mind and his heart. It's funny talking about myself in the third person. That I'll just ask my spirit guides, and they may redirect me or proxy an answer from another being. So I might get redirected to Mother Gaia or Sol for the sun, or Source, or, I mean, the reality is every being is connected in some way across the universe. So there's that aspect. And then the other really interesting aspect is that trees have connectivity with the ley lines. So the energy flow, the nervous system, the chakra system, the meridians, these larger energetic pathways between all parts of the living consciousness of Earth and Mother Gaia. This is how trees communicate. The ley lines, I feel somewhere between the ley lines and the collective consciousness of trees. And it's definitely a feeling of when you connect with one tree, you have access to them all. Or should I say, you can request access to all trees around the world. That you start to get, you start to feel into a bit more this concept that, well, maybe since there's a collective consciousness of trees and they're all connected into the ley lines, like the very nervous system heartbeat of Mother Earth, that they also serve as, or could potentially serve as, some kind of knowledge repository, a bit like a Akashic Records style library of everything that's happened upon the Earth. And my spirit guide Maya just showed me, you know, the rings in a, what do they call them? The rings that you see when a tree's sadly chopped down, or maybe dead and even fallen down. When you see the circles within a tree, she's saying also this is like a bit like how trees remember, is that there's these cycles to memories. You know, when we look at a circle, we think we're looking at the kind of bark, you know, growing and falling off, I think. Is that what creates the circles in a tree? So you can kind of, so it happens every season, so you can count the number of years. And so when you cut down a tree, you just count the number of circles you can perceive, and then you have like a reasonably accurate number of years that the tree was alive, or at least growing that particular part of the tree you have access to. So that feels really connected, although I don't quite understand how the circles of the tree, what they have to do with knowledge. Mother Gaia is saying sorry, not Mother Gaia, my spirit guide Maya is just saying that simply it's the kind of the circle. So with every season, it feels like every winter, the experiences through the summer of the tree, the knowledge gained of the tree in that cycle are released into the ley lines of the earth. And this is why winter is a hugely powerful season for receiving. You know, we might often think that everything looks a bit dead, right, and kind of in stasis, but really it's a time of rest for the trees as well. I mean, I know the evergreens are still look pretty busy. They're always green. But yeah, trees that shed their leaves are really allowing the energy of the earth, the memories, the collective consciousness to be released into the earth. And I know that studies have been done. I know of at least modern science studies that are done with rats, for example, where initially they thought that rats could somehow kind of communicate, or maybe even telepathically communicate, or communicate through, pheromones or something, that they could teach each other, for example, how to escape a maze. But studies actually show, and you'd have to find them yourself, I can't remember what they were, but I know there's more than one study, and it's been referenced many times, is that rats actually have a collective consciousness. So just like we talk about collective consciousness of humanity. And so when one rat learns something, they all have an opportunity to learn it. All rats, right? And now that's pretty amazing when you think about it. And so why not trees? And let's face it, trees live a very long time, and they're alive, they're right next to each other for a very long time, and their root systems, intertwine, they're very, very much physically connected. So yeah, I feel it's still a journey for me to better understand it, and I'd love to be able to explain it even better. But some of these foundational concepts are really important to understand. And let me also share, remember we were talking a bit about unity and, hive minds and collective consciousness. We're just coming up to Dundee now. This is where I went to university. Swallow Roundabout. Wow, there's a lot of Amazon lorries. So we go kind of around the Kingsway, which is a kind of like outer ring road, like a bypass for the city. And what is it some of you guys ask me about in these videos, these driving videos? I know a lot of you say I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. Thankfully, it's correct for the UK. I have driven in the US and, in other countries. I haven't driven in Japan, and they drive on the same side as us, on the left. Not sure what's going on up here. One's a bit slow. So, talking about unity, now if you've never heard of the concept of unity, and I'm not just talking about people hugging each other and being in agreement about things, we're unified or standing together, right? I'm talking about unity, which I was taught by members of the Galactic Federation. Oh, it's 11:11. Woohoo! It's 11:11 a.m. And I'm meeting a very dear friend, so I'm really excited, and it's just over half an hour until I meet them, which is exciting. So maybe a week ago, I did a video on helping teach you unity. It was in one of my prediction videos. So if you've never experienced unity, I highly recommend you go back to that video. So you get to experience it yourself. And some people are truly shocked, right? A lot of people, isn't it lovely? There's a sign here that just says "Light in the Darkness." Wanted, Red or Alive, Garth Brooks. No, I'm not sure. I think I'm going the right way. Yeah, because one just takes you to an industrial estate. Don't want to go there. I'm sure it's lovely. Yeah, so unity, when this is something that a lot of us really miss, the feeling of, our souls really miss it. It's shocking when you first come to Earth, right? When you first come to Earth, when you first incarnated here, you're not in unity. And for some beings, that could be the first time, the first lifetime. And it's a feeling of soul yearningly tough loneliness, right? A feeling of being disconnected from the source of love of this universe, which you're not. You're actually still connected to source. It's part of you. You are also source, but you're no longer connected to your parents in unity. I feel like that perhaps maybe in the womb some of us would experience unity with our mothers, maybe even both our parents, but once we're born, it is shocking, right? And when as you grow a bit older and you start to see how humans aren't really connected in the same way that you've experienced in previous lives, it's like, oh no, is this it? It's like, is this as happy as I'm gonna get? Because I'm used to a lot more happiness in my other lifetimes. And then eventually you get older and you're forgetting, you fully pass through the veil of forgetfulness. But sometimes it feels like I'm going through that every day. So there's the concept of unity that I was taught. I'd love to be able to let this lorry out, but I can't, I'm afraid. I was first shown it on a Galactic Federation ship when I took my previous membership group there on an adventure, an astral travel adventure. And we entered this big viewing gallery overlooking Earth in the Galactic Federation ship Athena. And at the start of the meeting, it was kind of a ceremony. It felt like a ceremonial aspect to meetings, is that they very carefully and slowly showed me how of the 300 or so different beings in that meeting, and they're all beings from around the universe, different sizes and shapes and colors and frequency ranges. You know, if you think diversity on Earth could be better, it's, you know, diversity across the universe is just vast, right? And what they showed me is they thread a little golden light they started with one being, and then they connected their heart with a thread of golden light to the next. And it was thicker than a thread. It's called a light cord from their heart to the being next to them. And then that continued on in a chain. And I don't think it strictly needs to be a chain. It can probably expand out in all directions. But every single heart, or maybe it's part of the ceremony and the intention they're setting, every single heart connected to every single heart. And until the whole room had connected with each other. And they said to me, our Galactic Federation representative said, we are now in unity. Would you like to connect as well? And of course I felt like a little bit of peer pressure. It's like, yeah, sure. You're all really diverse, and I'm a human. There's no other humans here, so connected with my heart to them. And I can only describe the feeling of just this wonderful oneness. And I felt like this heart-to-heart connection of unity was something I'd perhaps been missing my whole life, and perhaps explain why, especially after my awakening, that I felt even more lonely than I'd ever felt in my life, even though I was in a loving, happy marriage with a lovely family, friends, and so logically it kind of didn't make sense. And I just kind of at the time, I just kind of put it, maybe many of us kind of put it down to a bit of like detachment, disconnection, dissociation, shedding our old selves, you know. And having that experience, my first experience of connecting in unity, I began to understand the feeling of what it feels like to be connected, to be reconnected with the human collective, or in this case, collective of other beings from around the universe. And I started to get an understanding about how that works, right? Because my initial hesitation was that I don't want to lose Jon, right? I still want to be Jon. I don't just want to kind of join the board, like hive mind, join us, resistance is futile. I didn't want any of that. I wanted to still have my, you know, my individual collective consciousness. And guess what? In unity, you do, right? It is like, I can only describe it as still being you, except you're connected by, and we're used to connections with things like the internet, for example, but the internet's very mind focused. So what if there was an internet where you could connect your hearts together, where you could feel what each other feel? And oh my God, I could feel all beings in the room. I could feel them all. And I could feel the whole frequency range. And I got the feeling that if you just asked a question such as, I don't know, should we save Earth, yes or no? Every heart would answer with an emotion and an emotional frequency, and that simultaneously, and that I would feel in my heart, together with my own answer, like the collective unity of that, in this case, the 300 or so beings from across the universe. You know, if it was a yes, it felt like it was going to go upwards in vibration, so I would feel it up in my heart. And if it was a no, it would go down lower in my heart, because the frequency of the emotion was lower. And that every single being had a say, because hang on, do I go left? I do go left. There we go. So yeah, this feeling that I would feel all the hearts of 300 beings, and I felt in part this is why they wanted so many there. And you know how when us humans try and do things collectively, like we're just so rudimentary about it all, right? We do things like vote yes or no, or vote for 3 options, yes or no. And you're just like, one of the big challenges is voting has almost no resolution, and by that I mean granularity to it, right? You don't know that someone's voting yes, but it's really reluctant. They're only just a yes. Whereas I felt in unity with the Galactic Federation members that a yes would come with a frequency range, and that frequency range, I think I'm going right here. Yeah, there would be a frequency range of it. So in other words, you get to feel all the outliers as well. You know, so you might, you know, when you see like that chart of the, being reminded of the Schumann resonance chart, you can see of Schumann resonance on Earth, or Earth's atmosphere, and you get these kind of stripes going across, and it felt like if someone was deeply unhappy and no, you know, like, no, let's not help Earth type answer, then they would, it would be like, you'd feel, and because it doesn't matter who it comes from, right? You just know that within the collective, at least one out of the 300 has a low vibration, like a fearful, like, oh no, like, they might be feeling, oh sure, we could help Earth, but at what cost? Like, what's it what's it going to cost us? I don't mean money, I mean happiness, health, security. It's crossing a roundabout. So still going straight on up here. So this is, I know this feels a little bit like a bit of a rabbit hole into unity, but just going back to trees, this is how I feel trees connect. They connect their hearts, the hearts of their very beings, with each other. And so they're still aware of each individual tree's feelings, and they still have an appreciation of the collective of trees, and that it's not just in unity with each other, it's not just feelings that they can communicate, it's also knowledge, experiences, wisdom. So by that, I feel it's also likely that other trees recognize us, because I've heard trees talking about me, right? And they'll say, and you can do this with like any living thing, including it says, welcome to Angus, Scotland's birthplace. How fascinating. There's this feeling that when all trees communicate together, they're always watching you. You know, I'm passing trees right now, and I must admit, I often feel a bit bad for these trees down by our motorways and, you know, service stations and some of the uglier parts of humanity. Because they have to deal with a lot more negative energy from us, and very turbulent and chaotic energy, plus all the physical pollution. So these are the very brave souls. I feel these are really brave trees. I feel that all trees do know us, right? And they talk about us, right? They know our lights, they know our souls. You know, I have a big black jacket, which is like a big black sleeping bag. Amazing for Scottish weather and rain. I've heard both trees and crows refer to me about the way I look, and they say I look a bit like a human crow, or crow man, I've heard crows say that I look like them. It's like, oh, that's lovely, guys. Maybe in the summer they'll change my nickname to something else. It's just, I'd encourage you to ask permission of trees. You know, open your heart, feel your heart chakra relaxing and opening. Place your hand on a tree, hug a tree, and just spend time building those relationships. In hindsight, of course, I didn't know I was doing this because I didn't have the intention to build up some sort of psychic tree ability. I do not feel I'm unique, you know, and please do see everything I do as a reflection of your capabilities. And I'm not for a minute saying that we can all do exactly the same things, because all our superpowers are different. I feel lightly, not 100% sure, but I feel lightly we can all talk to trees. If your heart is closed, if you're feeling fearful, if you're stuck in your mind and you're clinging to logic, it's going to be a pretty quiet conversation, or one-sided conversation, right? If you just turn up, ask permission, not sure, maybe you think it's a yes, place your hand on the tree, look at the tree, hello tree, talk to me, you know, and then nothing happens. You wonder why the tree's not talking to you, or you can't hear it. It's really important. And I must admit, it's harder for me. I know a lot of people, you know, talk about clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, like all these, the clairs, right? I feel they can be, a little bit useful to describe some of our superpowers. However, lightly, just like your own current perception of reality, your consciousness is combining all of your inputs, all of your clairs, all of your superpowers, because they're all relevant input feeds into your conscious awareness. And what's cool about that is you can receive anything, right? So I'd encourage you to feel into, I use words like perceive and perception. So when I talk to a tree, I perceive its answer. I know some of you ask in the comments, oh, do you hear them psychically, like telepathically? Do you hear a voice from the tree? Do you feel the tree in your heart? Do you feel it in your hand because you're touching the tree with your hand? I'd encourage you, like, I feel we're all going to connect with other beings, including trees, in different ways. And so, if, for example, it's a DVLA tax check, nice, and I have paid mine. Yeah, you can just imagine this experience of, you know, when you connect with someone, just like when you connect with a human, it's not just the words you hear, even if you're only talking to them with audio, but in particular when you're face to face, right, in person, you can feel, you know, whether someone's stressed or not. You can feel the energy, the tone of their language. You can feel the emotion. You can visually, you can see them. You can hear them. They're like hand movements and the tones and textures of their voice. You can smell other people. You feel that resonant energy coming from them, and it's a whole universe of resonant, by this I mean, kind of broadcasting energies coming from people when we connect with them face to face, just like many other beings. And it's the same with trees, right? They are all unique, right? Just like us, they all have unique souls, and they have this ability to connect with us. And the way I personally describe my personal experiences when I connect with a tree is I feel a mixture of my heart feels the strongest connection. And isn't it handy that our hearts are so close to, like, this kind of logical flow of energy from our hand into our heart? Hand, arm, heart, right? Or hand, arm, chest, heart. And using your left hand's great because that's your receiving hand, so that's a top tip. Other than that, just have a really open heart. Listen to, sometimes I feel like it's a whisper in my heart. Depending on the tree, sometimes it feels like they're perhaps more telepathically, like it's coming more up into my brain, like a voice that is not your own. I don't hear, "Hi, I'm a tree, my name's Bob, blah blah blah." Like, and also trees are much, some of the trees I've experienced so far, they're slower talking, right? They're not in a rush. When you slow down, you can articulate things much better. And let's face it, they're trying to talk to a human, right? Never mind us humans trying to talk to a tree. They're going to a lot of effort as well. They're like, "Oh, hope this guy's going to hear me because I'm making a lot of effort. I'm using a lot of energy." So I have created, we're just up on an hour now, I have created a guided meditation. And it's a practical one, right? So to teach you to talk to trees. So do a little bit of search for that. I think if you just search on YouTube for Jon Binnie Psychic Tree Talk guided meditation, or just meditation, you'll find it. or just scroll back through the predictions playlist and eventually you'll find it. And what I do in that video is I take you to Brock Woods with me and teach you. So it, you know, just like you'd expect from a traditional guided meditation, you're learning. Wow, it's like driving through the ocean. Thank you, Laurie. Wow, that's a seriously high-sided lorry. I'm not sure it should be overtaking people. But yeah, it feels that that whole meditation is designed that you could just put your headphones on, your earphones on, and walk out into nature. So it says things like, we are approaching the first tree. And although you can see me physically doing it in the video, you don't need to watch me. It's a guided meditation, so you're being taught through all the steps to take. And we also get to ask the trees some questions as we go. So it's really a training, you know, video on how to develop your own psychic tree talk. So Shannon, to answer your question, yes. With some answers about how trees store knowledge, and yeah, I'd encourage you to go and visit them. Why don't you ask? And this is a really fun thing to do. I've done as well before. This is maybe another video to do. Is you can send messages from one side of the world to the other using trees. You just set the destination like John's favorite tree or John's nearby tree. It doesn't even need to be that specific about the destination. And then I'll just, you know, put my hand on the tree. I do often get the sense of like, you've got mail when I pass the tree. You've got mail, ding! And so I'll go and check it. But yeah, that'll be fun. I'm not inviting you to do that at the moment because I feel that could do with some a little bit of structure and intention around it. And then finally, yeah, do explore. You know, look after trees. They're alive. They're living. Explore your relationships, friendships with them, and ask away. Ask all the questions. Ask them how. Do they recognize you? Do other trees recognize you? It's such fun. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Sending love.